Good morning. Thanks so much for joining me here for this week's edition of Michiana Unsolved. Today we have a story for you about Johnnie Lee Johnson. He was shot and killed in his front yard back in 2022, a case that didn't happen just yesterday, but certainly not 10 years ago either. One that is certainly solvable today. We just need someone to come forward with any information that they have. I'm being told by police that they're close. They just need a little bit more. So we are going to dive into this story for you today, give you the very latest on this homicide to see how you can help. I'm Karsten, and this is Michiana Unsolved. Lieutenant Kayla Miller with Michiana Crime Stoppers joining us as we take another visit to a case that we highlighted about a year ago as we reach another anniversary of the homicide of Johnnie Lee Johnson. So, for those that aren't aware of what happened to him, maybe we just start at the beginning to rehash this case.
Sounds good, Christine, and thank you again for highlighting this one again. I know we've done it before, but this one is hard because there were so many people that were outside when Johnnie was shot and killed, and every homicide is horrible, but this happened in his front yard, and his young son was just inside the home, and having responded to that scene and having to hold a child so that way they don't see that horrific and traumatic scene was a lot. So again, we're just looking for the community to step up. So it's been 2 years now since 53-year-old Johnnie Lee Johnson was shot and killed in front of his home. It was May 12th around 8 p.m. when South Bend Police Department responded to the 1200 block of North Huey Street for reports of shots fired. When they arrived, they found Johnnie outside, laying on the ground, suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. And like I mentioned, his young son and wife were just inside the front door when this happened. And what we know is that there were several people outside when this occurred, and it is believed that it is a drive-by shooting. So we do have some video surveillance that we have shared before. We want to go over that again. And what you can see in this video surveillance that you're seeing is that there's numerous people outside, and that there is a vehicle that is described as a gray or silver mid-sized SUV that drove by, and the shots were fired from that vehicle. Some of that video shows a car going southbound on Huey Street, but the car that we're looking at, that silver or gray colored SUV, was actually traveling northbound on Huey Street. And so part of this is trying to identify who those witnesses are and getting statements from witnesses so we can bring some closure for this little boy and Johnnie's family. No details too small. We've talked about that before, whether or not you heard something or saw something. As we piece together all of the details from a case, it takes everyone's little bit of information. And we've said it before, it is a puzzle. And everyone has a piece of that, and we have to put that together in order for us to have the entire picture. So, this does qualify for that $2,500 cash reward if your tip leads to the solving or the arrest and the murder of Johnnie Lee Johnson. Lots of people knew Johnnie as Car Wash. In fact, that was his nickname. And that's what he loved to do. And that's what he was outside doing when this happened. He was actually outside washing a car in his driveway. And then the suspect in this drove by, and like I said, just opened fire into a crowd of people. And on the other side of that wall was a little boy.
Now I'm working on something really quick because I want to pull up some photos that we have of the vehicle. I know you saw them just there, but I have some other close-up photos that I want to show you. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to open them up here because I feel like they're just really important to show. Again, these aren't great, which is a shame because ideally, right, we would have perfect images that we could show you. But this is what we have thanks to some surveillance video that was captured. So here we are. You saw the video of Johnnie's house, right? You saw those people outside. You saw some kids actually riding their bike, which that in itself is heartbreaking. Can you imagine if that was your kid just cycling by moments before this shooting happened? So again, a kind of gray silver colored SUV, mid-sized, is what this is being described. You can see it right here. I got another photo for you, just a different angle. Again, being captured on Ring camera. So this is obviously the best that we have right now. I'll take it full to see if you can see anything here. And finally, we have a third photo. Again, all very similar. But if you were in this area and you saw something, maybe maybe this car drives around your neighborhood even today. Again, this happened in 2022, or just over 2 years ago when this happened. So maybe this is something that you remember hearing, seeing. Maybe this is a vehicle that still comes around your neighborhood. Even if you don't know if this vehicle was involved, but you see something that's similar to to this, call Michiana Crime Stoppers. You know, you aren't going to get in trouble for calling and giving information that you think is credible. Here's how it all goes, right? You call in to Michiana Crime Stoppers, or you can use these other platforms. You can go online, you can use your cell phone to submit a tip. When you do that, you type in, you fill out a form, basically exactly what you know. They don't track IP addresses. They have no idea that it's you. So you go through those steps, and then once you submit your tip, you're given a number, and you're the only person that knows that number. So that's the only way you can actually check back to see if your tip has led to the solving of this case or an arrest, which then in turn, you'd be eligible for a cash reward. And that's how that whole thing goes. But I tell you this because, again, if that car looks familiar, if that's something that goes around your neighborhood that you think, oh, maybe this is X, Y, and Z's car, submit a tip. Even if it doesn't pan out, because as soon as these investigators get this tip, they pass it on to police, and then police do their own investigation into it to see if this goes along with what they're seeing or not, right? So that's kind of how all this goes. So if you know anything, no matter how big or how small, please submit a tip. It's just so important that we get some answers, which is so heartbreaking to me. Any case like this, heartbreaking, right? We're talking about a loss of life. We're talking about a community member that is taken from us, and it has that direct effect on Johnnie, on his family, on his friends, on people who were there, on the kids who live on that street, right? This isn't just him. This is everybody involved. So if you have anything, no matter how big or how small, it's time to speak up. It's time. 2 years is more than enough. Give this family some peace. So that's what we have for you today. You know, we talked a little bit about on the morning show here. We're also going to have a piece coming up at 4 tonight. And this is just what we do. If you're new to this segment, every week we highlight unsolved crimes all around Michiana, not just South Bend. So if you have a case that you'd like us to look into, please reach out to me. There are so many different ways. You can email me. You can head on Facebook. I've had several of you do that. Thank you so much. These are cases that we continue to look into. If we haven't highlighted one that you suggest, they all get passed on to Lieutenant Miller, and then she needs to reach out to those agencies to collect some information. So sometimes they take a little bit longer than others, but we're certainly on it. And we just appreciate you taking the time to talk about these cases with us. And the final thing is, if you don't know something, that's perfectly okay. I just ask that you share this on social media, because this is the best way that we can hopefully get this story in the hands of people who do know something. If you're just joining us on Facebook Live, you can also head to our website, WNDU.com. There's a Digital Plus tab that actually has all of the Michiana Unsolved that we've covered. So if you want to look back to a certain story and you want to share that, you certainly can, which is really cool. If you're joining us right now on WNDU.com or our other streaming platforms, you can also watch on Facebook, which is really cool. Just trying to reach as many people as possible. But as always, I just thank you so much for joining us. It's just so important to get the word out, and that's what we'll continue to do every single Monday. But yeah, if any information, Michiana Crime Stoppers is where you need to go. Well, have a great rest of your week. I'm Karsten with this weekly segment of Michiana Unsolved. We'll see you next week.